What's happening, good people? Welcome to the channel. I'm Wes, aka Mr. Budget Watch, and today I possibly have hands on with the world's cheapest titanium watch, the Kuluze KVX2411, a sort of homage to the Hamilton Corky Field automatic 40mm. Anyways, let's explore this budget watch, starting with the dimensions. The diameter is 41.2, which is a little bit on the large side for a field type watch. This does increase to 43.9 when you include the crown. Lug to lug is a pretty sizable 48.1, but still kind of wearable too. I think shorter would of course been a bit nicer, but you know, it is what it is. Thickness is a shade under 9mm at 8.8. Lug width is 20mm. Always nice to see and important in this case. Finally, the crown is 5.3. The case is titanium. Initially I thought it might not have been, as we know titanium is not the easiest metal to polish. But here we have a budget watch with a polished titanium case. That's quite surprising. The pull push crown and screw down case back are also titanium. That is impressive again. I'm honestly shocked given the price point. Another surprise is the crystal. I'd have been fine with mineral at this price point, but they've not skimped at all, and we have sapphire. Water resistance is 50 meters, not the best. Of course 100 would be better, but given the spec, I can kind of forgive the 50 meter because the rest is so expensive. So last up for the specs is the weight, and this one is very light at just 42 grams. While we're on the case, it's easily one of the best I've ever seen on a watch at this price point. Not only is it full titanium, but the mix of finishes is impressive. The bezel is brushed in a circular manner and it's great. It's satin, neat, and just damn impressive. Even more impressive is the polished accents flanking it. Just how have they done this at this price point? We then have brush lugs, again done to a pretty great standard. You'll also spot these slim cuts into the lugs that are polished. Really nice, adds a little bit of aggressive look, and just what? How have they done this at this price point? It's awesome and honestly shocking to see, and gives this watch a really unique look compared to what it's based upon. The sides of the case are polished. Of course they aren't mirror polished. I mean, this is not Grand Seiko after all. But polishing to titanium to any standard is a pretty commendable feat, so high praise there. You can also appreciate the layers of the watch too, starting with the slightly protruding crystal, to the bezel which curves and stops at the top of the mid case, and then the mid case where you can appreciate those sharp angular elements. I mean, it's pretty great. And I know it sounds like I'm shining a lot of praise here, but remember, this watch is cheap. So it's even more impressive to see than on something that would be more expensive. As for the crown, it's a basic design which has a radial brush finished and their logo engraved. But again, it's titanium. As for the case back, it's way more interesting than I thought it would have been. I mean, there is no artwork to speak of, but we do get a list of specifications in a radial circular design surrounding the main area. But the specs are actually raised from the frosted edge back. You'll also spot their branding and logo done in the same fashion. Again, if this was more expensive, I would have still been impressed, but really something else for the price point. To the crystal, and on this part of the watch we have a flat sapphire crystal with a bezel edge. Again, something I was not expecting. I don't really understand how they've managed to pack all these flourishes in at so little cost. Anyways, to that dial, it's very akin to the Hamilton mentioned in the intro, though it's not exactly direct. Around the perimeter we have a detailed minute track which is broken by some small lume dots. Under that you'll find a series of numerals donating 60 minutes. The printing is not the best I've seen, but it's far from the worst too. We then have the main lume numerals that have a subtle green hue. These are printed onto a raised portion of the dial which has a subtle grooved sort of record like texture, but it's very fine. Inside the inner 24-hour ring, again it's printed but not lume this time. Under the 24 is the simple printed branding, and that's all for text. At the 3 we have a date window, and this is probably the worst part of the dial as it's squashed between the 3 and 15 and looks awkward. I wish they'd scrapped this as it spoils the dial's flow. As for the hands, these are nice, but also my first slight complaint. The syringe style and polished. The second hand is a lot slimmer and has a loomed arrow tip at the end. So all good here, but the hands are a touch thin. And on the quite large dial, I think they need to be a little bit broader and fuller. One final complaint with this is a bit of dust trapped on the surface of the dial and one speck under the crystal too. This is a bit of a shame on an otherwise well done dial. Now to the next issue, the strap. It's all wrong and looks out of place. I really would have liked to have seen a NATO, as this takes away from the field watch look. Though one could argue that this one airs a little bit more on the dressy side, so I guess it's all about perspective. Anyways, the strap is apparently calf leather, but I'm thinking that's referring to the inner rather than the outer, as that has a plastic-like quality to it and does not feel like calf leather at all. On the plus side, the bamboo style is nice and the stitching is decent too. It's broken in quite well, though it's not as flexible nor as supple as a proper calfskin leather strap. The taper is welcome too and does push that style into more smart casual dressy than it does field. So this could be versatile in that respect. On a positive note, it's also quick release, which helps with those quick strap changes. The shorter size has one fixed and one floating keypull. The buckle is basic, steel and just passable. On wrist, the Kuluze is good, if not amazing. I think the strap does somewhat reduce the comfort as it's a bit on the rigid side. Get this on something else though and it's way better. I'm also on the last adjustment hole, so if you have slimmer wrists than myself then you'll need a different strap. The size is about manageable for me, though I do get a smidge of overhang, but nothing off-putting. I'll also say because the dial is large and the bezel is small, it looks bigger on wrist than the actual size the watch is. It doesn't necessarily wear bigger, it just looks that way. So I think this one would perhaps suit larger wrists rather than a slim one. The weight of the watch is a non-issue given how light it is, and on a different strap it's easy to forget that you're actually wearing it. As a whole, it's comfortable if you've got it on the right strap. Powering the watch is a new movement to me, and that is the Epson VX42. This is a very basic and cheap 300 quartz. The battery life is quoted at 3 years and it uses an SR920SW battery. It has 0 joules. The accuracy is about on standard, negative 2 plus 20 seconds per month. In use, it's actually surprising though and feels better than some budget Seiko and Miyota movements I've used. The time adjust is smooth with 0 feedback at all. The date adjust is quick set and is fine. Again, no issue at all. I have noticed though that there is a little bit of wobble on the hand when I'm adjusting the time, but other than that, it's solid. The crown is good too. Although small, the grip is fine and easy to get into position to use. The final stop on this tour is the Lume, and well, it's not amazing, but more decent. The hands are brighter than the numerals and the dots, so they do tend to fade a bit quicker. But it's a cheap titanium watch, so we can't exactly expect C3 grade Lume. So it's passable, if not great. As a whole, for the grand total of £68 including taxes, this is honestly a shockingly good watch. Is it perfect? No. What you have to remember is that this is offering a case that you'd expect to see on something way more expensive. And of course the strap isn't the best, but we can't have it all for so little. But I will say that the one thing that put me off is the dust under the crystal. Other than that, I think it's a fantastic watch and it's really exceeded my expectations and then some. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads, and of course follow me on social media at Mr. Budget Watch. Thanks again, I'll see you soon.